Welcome back to the Unanimous Decision Podcast. I am your host, DPalm. Follow me on Twitter at DPalm66. Follow the show on Twitter at UDPod. Follow the entire MTR network at the MTR network. You found us, don't lose us. Subscribe in the iTunes store. Subscribe anywhere podcasts are given away for absolutely free. It's imperative, particularly in the fall, that you subscribe everywhere you can get your podcast, because on Tuesdays we drop our quick snaps. It didn't happen for week one because that week one Monday Night Football game ended at like 2 a.m. And while I was very tired, I was not going to go to bed until I watched Chucky get his ass kicked. I got to see that. I went to bed and did not record a quick snap. But week two going forward, you'll have your quick snaps recapping the week's action for you on Tuesday mornings, but they'll only be appearing on the UDPod feed. Once you've subscribed, leave that 5-star review in the iTunes store. Don't leave a 4-star review because I won't read what you say. If you leave a 5-star review, every word of your review will be read on the air, be it mean, mocking, humorous, or just something you want to hear me say about one of my teams that I probably would say unprompted. All right, we're getting ready to get started. Football is back in full swing. We're in week 3 of college, week 2 of NFL. Kicks off here in about an hour as of recording time. And I am lucky enough to have on the show today one of the many members of the MTR Collective, Miss Ashanti. How are you doing?
I am all right. You still pronounced it wrong, but like I said, I don't know.
All that prep. Well, I may not be good at pronouncing names, but there's something you're good at that I did not expect, because a little behind the scenes look for the listeners. We have our UDPod Pick'em League. I hope you all joined and are losing to me right now in NFL Pick'ems. We also had our first annual UDPod Fantasy Football League, and originally I'd opened it up for 10 teams, myself included, and that was going to be it. And then out of the clear blue sky, I get an email, hey, did I miss the sign up? And I got to be honest, when you said that you wanted to play, I wasn't entirely sure until I saw you nominate someone else to play so that we get back to 12 and a nice round number without their consent or permission. When did this fantasy love start?
So what had happened was 3 years ago, a friend of mine needed to round off her fantasy league, and she asked me to fill the last berth. And I kind of made an offhand comment about wanting to learn a little more about football, because even though I was in marching band and had to go to football games, it was something that I had to endure instead of enjoy. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try. Football is a chore. It was something that I just had to get through so we could do our halftime shows and then go back to the stand to get a, hot dog, have a break before the last quarter. Anyhow. That was 2015, and our league was called the Elite 80s Babies. And my team name was Nightmare on 49ers Street. And because of the uniqueness of my name, and because I don't know how things work, I was like, oh, look, the 49ers, red and gold, or crimson and cream, and I'm a Delta. So I was like, oh, all the superficial things. So I drafted their quarterback and almost everyone on their offensive line, until she was like, so you can't do that because they're all going to be on because they're all going to be on break whenever when they have a bye. So yeah, she had to show me the ropes of how to do fantasy, which is why I know a hell of a whole lot about Kaepernick, which is why my opinions about the man go against the current mood. So I will keep my mouth shut for another 3 years, I guess. Anyhow, I enjoyed playing, and so the next year I got ambitious. And I joined the Balls Deep League, which you have to pay $50 to join. Chris and I were in Iceland doing a horseback ride, and I'm on the phone.
Hashtag smiling Chris face.
Hashtag smiling Chris face, yes. And I'm on my phone on horseback, sending my money to PayPal to Karen to enter the league. And I was in 2 that year, and I'm in 2 again this year. So this is fun. I lost last week in the my other league, but this one, yeah.
Well, the thing is,
Yeah.
you didn't just come in and like kind of play. You didn't kind of limp in and say, "Oh, hey, I'm the last team here, but I'm gonna have some fun." You came in and started taking shots, and like not like in the app shots, like Twitter shots. Like you went out after people who just happened. You saw their names, you're like, "Oh, I know this person. I'm gonna talk some trash." What, is 3 years in? Is this just like? Is this getting people's heads, knocking them off their game? What's the strategy, or do you just like talking shit?
Oh, I just like talking shit.
I was really hoping that was the answer.
And the thing is, like with Taz, there she has a 49ers hat in her Abby, and I know all the 49ers gossip and tea, and all all the bullshit. So I made a remark um, about about Balky, who used to be the GM, who like would draft all draft from like the ER in the Achilles slash
Right,
MCL
right.
rehabilitation.
He tried to
Yeah.
get the broken
So,
box special.
yeah, yeah. So trash talk started there, and because we were battling each other week one, that's when it really ratcheted up. And of course, when they're like, "You're gonna eat this L," and then you lose, you're gonna pay the piper.
And in this scenario, you're the piper, correct? Just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Yes. And here's the thing: I am happy. I am happy as a clam to win, but I really enjoy it when the wins are especially unearned.
Well, because that's kind of like the unspoken truth of fantasy football. It's all kind of dumb luck. Like
Mm-hmm.
Josh Gordon's getting cut. We're going to talk about that. So I had to move him off my starters. And like Aaron Rodgers is hurt and playing at 1, and my other quarterback's playing at 4. And I'm like, well, do I play Aaron Rodgers? Do I play goes to roster Mitchell Trubisky? It's not even really a debate, but like I'm just hoping he stays healthy. I'm hoping I get a half out of Rodgers where he puts up some points. And it's so funny because we're all so invested, be it in these annual fantasy football leagues or like the daily fantasy. But you're right. No matter how well you can plan and prepare, they play the games, and all our reactions are really unearned. But you get to lean into the unearned because I feel like your trash talking might be Teflon. Like a party was like, I wonder what happens if she loses. I'm like, she probably gets louder.
Mm-hmm. Like
Good.
hurting doesn't hurt me, but winning makes me thrilled. Um, and I had Aaron Rodgers on my roster last year,
Mm.
um, and it sucked when he got injured, and so I feel sorry for you. I feel your pain with him being injured, and he might play through it. Hopefully, he doesn't hurt himself further. But I know where you're at. But I would say you might want to play Mitch Trubisky unless you want to borrow Tom Brady for a week, in which case you have to give him back.
I don't think I can borrow him for a week, but I'm gonna roll this. I'm gonna roll this Aaron Rodgers dice. But I think you're right. I think honestly, I'm at a point in my life with fantasy, and if things go wrong, if Aaron does hit his leg, I, I'm gonna find a way to have fun. I'm gonna talk my trash. I'm gonna pick my players. One year I had Tom Brady one year, the big year, and it was the year after the 16-1, the year after breaking all the records. I drafted Tom Brady in the beginning of the second round, and what happens? Tears ACL. So I decided to treat my team the same way like a losing coach would treat his team, and so I just gave these like each week I would print out just like a scouting report for my team, and I'd do it on the message board because I had to entertain myself because my season was effectively over. So there are different ways to do fantasy. Hopefully this year I'll be able to win some money in my own league. But even if I don't, I thank you for you made the entire endeavor worthwhile because watching you go at Taz the first week, like nothing's really on the line. We're all getting a feel for our rosters. You come out 2 guns blazing, all because she had the temerity to suggest that you were going to eat now.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and do we want to talk about the point differential?
No, we don't. What we want to do is move on and allow these good people listening to us who don't care about our fantasy teams to
Yeah,
hear
and
it.
here's okay. And so I going back to how different leagues operate differently. I noticed that you guys drafted wide receivers and running backs first, and this is like I guess my first time really noticing this, because I have Tom Brady and Cameron Newton, and those guys are impossible to get because mostly everyone that I've played with so far draft their quarterbacks first and then go after wide receivers and running backs. Now, I have another theory about drafting running backs and wide receivers in that they're all mostly dead by week 4. So it's really just a rotating cast of characters, and by like mid to late season, you're literally picking the bones clean. You have to go deep into the weeds of, the second and third guys on the roster and hope that they win you points. But that was new. And also
because we're doing a PPR league, so each reception counts as a point. So that's kind of probably explains the difference there.
Oh, okay. I don't even know what that means, but thank you for telling me. And also, you guys clowned me for drafting a kicker. I can't remember what round.
Whatever it was way too early.
Okay. Well, F you for saying, what kind of Mickey Mouse league is this?
Oh, you remember what I said during the draft?
Yes.
I shouldn't have invited you on the show. This is all been a trap.
Yeah. But I will say this. I got the #1 kicker. So,
It's I guess when the world rankings matter, that is very important. Let's move on to a league that wrapped up its season this week. The WNBA, the Seattle Storm 1-3 over the Washington Mystics. I can talk about the Mystics for a while. What I'm going to do right now is talk about the Storm because people decried when the Sonics left Seattle. It's a great basketball town. Hey, this is a town that's fully embraced their WNBA team. They've got a legitimate, probably the future of the league in Breanna Stewart. She won the MVP this year after finishing in the playoffs. I want to say 24 and 6 and almost 7 boards a game in the playoffs. She had 30 in the deciding game. It's been really fun to watch because this has been the year that, in my, I guess, paying attention, where the WNBA has been given these slots on ESPN and slots all with larger audiences, and they've really, though you see the numbers, they go up, the audience have responded, but it's still, for me, if you turn on SportsCenter, it's like the C block or the D block. I think that we're moving in the right direction as far as exposure for the league, but what do you think the next steps could be beyond obviously paying these players and treating them like actual athletes and professional athletes that they are? What do you think would be the next like kind of tipping point for the public to recognize it? Because what we've learned this past 2 years is that if you give them a platform, people will respond.
Oh, you're totally asking me as if I watch any other sport than tennis.
Well, okay, so let me say this then. As a non-watcher of the sport, what would catch your eye? What would draw your attention? Because for me, I'm a sports nut, so like the on-the-court action being super exciting and super engaging is what got me there this year. For someone who doesn't watch the sport, what would it take for the WNBA to capture your attention? Because in the summers, we're mostly talking about, like you said, the occasional tennis and major in tennis, but also it's like the dog days of baseball, training camp for football. Like there's really nothing going on. The WNBA can own these summers, and I think they have the reach right now to do it. But what would capture the kind of the magic of it for you? What would make it matter for you?
I guess promoting them like they would Serena Williams.
And that's interesting because if you look at what happened in Seattle this year, you saw Sue Bird wrapping up. I don't know if she's wrapping up. I don't want to retire her, but she's at year 14, winning her 3rd ring in Seattle. Like she's probably the best passer in the history of women's basketball. And for articles I read and the articles I read, and I've seen her get widely celebrated. But you're right, she's not promoted or kind of even mentioned like a Serena Williams would be. And I think you're right. I think that the individual prowess, the individual stars are going to be what takes the next step for the WNBA because
go ahead. Yeah, I guess the PR should focus on exceptional players like that and put them everywhere where sports nuts gather.
Yeah, it's wild because they underpay all the players, and so a lot of them spend their off seasons playing their season, making real money. So it's harder. I think the argument's been it's harder for them to do the off-season promotion because they're not in the States. And my response is just pay them more. If you pay them more, they don't have to go play in Russia and in Switzerland to make a livable wage so they can come back and play for the WNBA, which is at this point a labor of love. But I do think the most important thing is going to be the quality of the games, and that's there. I can if anyone's on the fence about, oh, I wonder if I should watch a WNBA game, I'm here to tell you, go buy those tickets. They're not going to be that expensive. It's a great weekday, something to do if they're in your town, and the games are damn good, particularly these playoffs. You love tennis, and Serena's been in the spotlight, so let's have this conversation. Serena Williams, for all of you who were living under a rock the last 2 weeks, was once again subject to abuse at the U.S. Open in New York, and much more of a kerfuffle has been made, not of her loss, but kind of the atmosphere around her losing, as we saw the grandstanding from the umpire at the time, kind of taking a hard line on the rules with her, deducting her a point and a game. What did you? I assume you watched it live as a tennis fan, as I did.
Oh, yeah. Listen,
Go ahead.
I got Hulu Live just to watch the U.S. Open without commercial interruptions, and also it kept the camera going during changeovers and stuff. So I saw her talking to the umpire in changeovers, and she was absolutely 100% right. And he didn't even give her any kind of soft warning. Like, he just docked her points, and that was unnecessary. Like, his treatment of her is inconsistent with his treatment of male players for the same behavior and worse. And thankfully, a lot of the guys from the men's tour, active and retired, pointed that shit out at the time, that they've done way worse things and they never got so much as a fine.
Right. Well, do you think it was, and because it's not my lived experience and I want to have this conversation, do you think it was strictly, it was a woman coming at them this way, or was it Serena? Because it's hard to, I imagine, officiate, but it's hard to even discuss Serena without discussing kind of the paradigms with which we view her through. I view her through, I mean, it's always interesting to me because her greatness is so unquestioned. Any conversation about her or even regarding her seems to have baggage, that whatever baggage you want to take to that conversation. Do you think that this umpire was stunning because that's Serena Williams and I'm not going to get shut up by Serena Williams? Or was he stunning because, I don't get to talk like that to a woman? I think there's both macro and micro issues here. But what do you think is more prevalent?
Yeah, I think it was because it's Serena.
Okay.
And I don't really think that there's much more that I can say that other people haven't. But what I picked up on was during her, when they were on the dais during the trophy presentation, she said, and mark her words, ladies and gentlemen, she is setting this up. She said, if I come back. Now, if you know anything about Serena Williams' history, she will definitely not attend your tournament if you have done some fuck shit.
She's not about the idle threat.
Yeah, no, she is not. And not too many people picked up on that, but I did. And I would like to reiterate that if she is not back this year, remember that I said it. She told the world, if I come back next year. And there you have it. I could see her skipping the next U.S. Open and then letting them deal with that. I mean, she's going to get flack for being like a quote unquote, sore loser or spoil sport. But there's only so many times that you can, to borrow the phrase, motherfuck me before I go full fuck you back. I will just rest up and wait for Fed Cup to start. There we go.
Yeah, I think it's a great point by you, because what I think tennis does know on a macro level, they need her more than she needs them. And that's why I think that she'll be at the Open next year, but I also think that there's going to be changes to go in place either in front of the curtain or behind the scenes that will make it attractive for her to go. And I think that you're not the only one who noticed it, because the umpires, in an unprecedented move, came out today or this week, and claimed that they were thinking about unionizing and not officiating any more for matches.
And you know what? I'll say this to that. There are about to be a whole lot more Negroes trying to find out how to become line judges for tennis. So go on ahead. There needs to be more representation um, as far as line judging and umpires. So go ahead and do that shit. Sit out. We will be there learning how to play tennis to figure out, okay, that's in, that's out. Watch the uptick in black judges.
But
At least that is my hope.
I think that this is just postured by the umpires, right? There's no way they're actually going to. I think that them unionizing is a different conversation. I think that this is a pro-union podcast. This is a pro-collective bargaining podcast. If they want to unionize for better wages or better treatment across the board, I support them. However,
yeah, but you're unionizing in spite.
Oh, no, that's and that was the next point I was about to make. Serena as the catalyst or Serena as the flashpoint is not it. Is not the move. And if they're doing this in a way to quote unquote send a message to not even the players, because it's not the players, because I've watched Djokovic and Federer and people cuss out these refs. I've watched it happen. And for them to say, oh, I got shown up on a big stage by a black woman, now it's a problem. Now we got to have a union. That's where I feels like it's just a lot of smoke and no real fire, because I think it's very clear for me watching as a casual observer, you don't know these umpire names until they're a problem. Once they're a problem, they're a problem. And if they get rid of problems, that's not a problem for the sport.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason, we even have this conversation is because this guy decided to try to make the match about him and less about the two young ladies competing, which was absolute horseshit. And regardless of how you feel about the application of the rule, and everyone who says, oh, well, those are the rules, are probably giving you reasons why it's okay that young man was killed in his own apartment in Dallas. It stinks of exactly what it is, racism. And I mean, if Serena doesn't go back, more power to her. I think she will go back. I think this is going to be another situation where it looks ugly at the moment, but in the end, Serena's going to be vindicated. Serena's going to be celebrated, because you can't do this kind of shit to the greatest in your sport and not expect some blowback.
Yeah, I personally am team. She is going to sit this out and see what happens, which I don't think it's going to have too much of a lingering effect. But if Naomi Osaka makes it to the finals next year, and then there's just the question mark over Serena, that might potentially still be well, how great is she? Because she couldn't, she couldn't get a rematch against, Serena. Just minor, but it's a possibility. But like I said, I hope she doesn't go back. Just to at least teach them a lesson. You can't treat people like this when you have been a consummate professional for as long as she's been on the tour. They have to come together, change the rule, and then enforce it equally. And I guess there should be some kind of censure for umpires.
Right. Well, this is a question I asked one of my tennis friends, and he didn't have a good answer. I think he might have a better one. What percentage of the umpire's job can't be done via robots at this point?
Well, I remember when they instituted the Eagle Eye.
Yeah.
In the early 2000s, maybe 2004 or 5. I think it could be done.
Like you mentioned, we're also of this true hit system to show where balls hit. Ins and outs and faults are a lot of the calls that are made by these umps, and we have robots that not just can do it, are doing it.
Yeah, but I think the thing is technically, I guess you could do it, but there's just going to delay the game, because then you have to review the footage, and then you have to announce if it's in or out. So I think having the people
real-time action. Okay.
Yeah, so having the real-time people, having the line judges there for real-time real-time line judging that is kind of important. So they could advance it more, or they could give the player more challenges, but I don't see that. I don't see that happening unless they can relay the result faster than they do.
This is a generally anti-robotic podcast, but after this bullshit, I'm like, you know what? Maybe we don't need. Maybe we need to just invest in these systems and make them faster, more responsive, because this is the bullshit. Because we're 2 weeks out. We're not even talking about the woman who won. 2 weeks later. We're having to have this tete-a-tete in the public sphere where they're threatening to unionize, and it's a bad look for tennis as a whole. And what I've loved about Serena is that she hasn't dwelled on it. She's answered the questions when asked, but she's not volunteering things. She's not making it a continued issue. She was mad that day. She says, I may not come back, but now on to the next thing. I know she and Serena were playing, I believe, in West Virginia this weekend. And they came out to rousing applause because people feel like you don't win fights by going at the best. Like, I'm sorry. There's a reason why Donald Trump took a very long time to mention LeBron James, because that's a fight he can't win. This is a fight you can't win, umpires. Take the exact same stance the next time Federer goes ham on somebody. I'll probably have your back to an extent, at least, because he's still one of the best too. You got to pick your battles, and I'm sorry, you just got no leverage for the battle right now. One of the big supporters of Serena Williams and everything that she does has been Nike. I've been really impressed with kind of the partnership they've made with her, and a lot of eyebrows were raised and questions were asked, and we addressed them last week on the show, kind of with Colin Kaepernick and the new Just Do It 30th anniversary at Serena Williams.
Can we do a pause? Quick pause. Just rewind just a little bit. Couple things. One, as someone who plays tennis and who watches tennis, here's a pro tip. Whenever you watch matches on TV, mute the TV, listen to music, listen to a podcast. That's how you avoid listening to all the racist bullshit that the people talking over, that the commentators have. So I learned that a very long time ago. I would like to pass that knowledge on and save you all the grief and despair of hearing commentators, passive aggressive, underhanded, racist, sexist comments about your favorite players. And now that the U.S. Open is done, World Team Tennis is in action, and I was just checking out the website, and Venus and Serena have previously played for the Washington Castles. Now it's primarily Venus, but I just saw that Naomi Osaka is a member of the Washington Castles World Tennis team. I am clapping on the inside as I look for the schedule to buy tickets.
There you go. I didn't know what that is. So now you've given me
hope.
Oh,
so it's okay. So World Team Tennis is more exciting. Like, it's more exciting than regular tennis. Like, it's very informal. Like, they have cheerleaders. You're allowed to cheer during the match. It's way more lively and interactive. And they have sometimes different color courts. So if you want to, it's like if tennis was a basketball game, that's what it is.
Okay. How long have they been doing that?
Oh God, it's been around for forever. Yeah, it's been around for a while.
Does it make it to TV, or is it just like the finals?
I don't know if they make it on TV.
If it's on TV, I'll try to find it, because that actually sounds super interesting to me.
Oh, it's hella fun. Nick Jew and I went last year to see Venus play at George Washington. And it's fun. I'll stop there because I'm engrossed in looking at the schedule for World Team Tennis.
Fair enough. There's your piece of UD Pod homework, guys. Let's look at the World Team Tennis, because apparently cheerleaders and rowdy crowds, that's a good way to get my attention.
Yeah, it's more fun, laid back.
That's what I like to hear about my sports. That's what UD Pod kind of espouses. And speaking of having fun and being laid back, I get to mock all the conservatives who still don't know how to protest. Putting tape over your shoes is not a protest, and neither is burning shit you already paid for. Anyway.
I mean, if anything, they could. It really boggles my mind that, should like a college football team win a game, they go destroy their town, and there's no, there's no decrying of that behavior. Like they can, there was like a pumpkin patch thing or something, like a pumpkin festival that went to hell.
I have no idea. But I do know that despite how loud and mad conservatives were about Nike's 30th anniversary Just Do It push, the Nike stock price closed at a all-time high this Friday. And I'm not a stock expert. I'm just a guy with the podcast. But they tell me that that's good. And it's so interesting because people were saying Nike's taking such a big risk. It's not like, and as we covered last week, it was never that big of a risk. It was saying, hey, we have a fiduciary responsibility to our shareholders, and we found out that the wave is going this direction, and we're going to be a part of the wave, and that made them money. I don't see, like everyone's saying how brave they were. What you have is situations like this. I don't know if you heard about this story. In Louisiana, I want to say, I forget the name of it's Kenner. It's a suburb of New Orleans. Ben Zahn said that he was going to ban the city's recreation department from purchasing Nike products. This announcement came on this past Monday. Before we got to record this podcast, he's been shamed into having a press conference where he said that he is rescinding said order because, and I'm quoting Ben Zahn, mayor of Kenner right now, the memorandum divided our city and placed Kenner in a false and unflattering light on the national stage. Full stop. Mr. Zahn, the unflattering light was not false. It was true. And the memorandum didn't divide the city. You did, my friend. And it's so wild because it's like he thinks that we're gonna forget what happened on Monday. Like the ACLU had to call them they had Saints protesting Kenner, Louisiana. It's a town you never heard of. But Craig Robinson, Chris Banjo, and Cam Jordan all attended the Unity in the Community rally. And like these aren't like, there are some places where certain athletes don't matter. New Orleans in football is not one of those places.
Yeah, isn't that where Britney Spears is from?
I believe so. That's she's from Louisiana, I think. That's a question I wasn't prepared to answer on this podcast.
Well, let me see if Google has an answer.
But I'll say this, like it's so wild because it's such a simple thing. Like you could have said nothing. Where's she from?
It's Kentwood, Louisiana.
It's not the same place.
Okay. Let's pretend like it is.
Why you have that in your head is beyond me. But we persevere. The stock skyrockets. The mayor wants to make all these comments and come out and say, oh, it's not what the city stands for. The city's like, yes, it is. It's just, it's not refreshing, but it's nice to see. It's nice to see a community come and say, hey, man, it's nice to see people using their power, using their voices to voice about something that they feel needs to be changed, even if it's something as small as the recreational facilities buying Nike products. And it's such an empty, quiet, stupid thing to do, and it's so nice to see it get slapped down in an age that's largely devoid of reason.
Mm-hmm.
I applaud this. So normally, like I said, we're going to have quick snaps every Tuesday to cover the NFL product that happened. Well, obviously, we didn't have one last Tuesday because I was very tired. So let's talk about some of the things that happened last week in the NFL. Some will apply to your fantasy team, some won't. The Steelers proved that they can't beat the Browns. And
that was amazing. Now, mind you, I don't watch, but I was like,
you just see the results. Wait a second.
Yeah, and I saw the result, but I'm like, I did not know that you could have a draw in football.
Oh yes, it's a very Cleveland thing to do, and to do it in your to break a 2-year losing streak with a draw is peak Browns.
So what happens? Like, do they have to play again, or?
Yeah, it's just it goes down as a half win in the win totals. And so they move on. Like it's just, they're 0-0-1 now. And if anyone thinks I'm not rooting for them to go 0-0-16, you're insane. If I
So is that won the draw? So they haven't really won a game yet, but they
didn't lose one. And that's what's most important.
Okay. Oh, okay.
When you're the Browns, the goalposts move. I get it.
And that's that's their one, literally. So the game they tied is their one in the win column?
They were 0-16 last year and 1-15 the year before.
Oh, I have no doubt. I know that they're losers. Consecutively. But the one in their thing right now is they're all zeros, except for that like one preseason one against the Bills, I think.
That one doesn't count because it's preseason, but yes.
Right. Okay. And so they just have a 0 and a 1.
Zero.
That one is really a half win.
They have a 0 in the win column, a 0 in the loss column, and a 1 in the tie column.
Oh, okay.
Which doesn't exist unless you tie, which never happens. Except for the Browns. The Browns found a way to lose, and everyone's saying, oh, you saw how well James Conner ran and da-da-da. If your team can't beat the Browns, you need Le'Veon Bell. And I'm not mad because in my other league, I did pick up James Conner, had a bunch of points. However, This should be all you need to show that Le'Veon Bell should be given his money. You can't beat the Browns without him. And let's talk about the Browns now, because I know you watched Hard Knocks this year, which I do.
I love Hard Knocks.
You love
The
Hard Knocks.
soundtrack is on iTunes, and I listen to it when I'm like working out in the morning.
You're in far too deep on Hard Knocks. I love it.
Oh, it's just the one song though. I just like the opening.
Fair enough. Well, this weekend, news broke that Josh Gordon is going to be released or traded from the Browns. And Josh Gordon is an insanely talented receiver, but we've spoken on this show and I've spoken on other shows about the numerous troubles he's has, drug addiction and kind of staying on the field. It seemed like he was turning his life around. This team was working with him. But apparently he's being cut and or released on Monday or traded, it looks like maybe. The reasoning that's coming out now is where I start to turn my nose up at the Browns and say, Browns, you're going to pull up full Browns here. What it sounds like is that he was injured. He injured his hamstring doing a promotional shoot on Friday. I know everyone says promotional shoot, full stop. This is an NFL team with an NFL product. There's a very good chance that promotional shoot was for the team. And secondly, it said he was late to a meeting on Friday as well. Now, late to a meeting, if you're willing to cut ties with a guy who you stood next to and helped to rehabilitate his image and help to find his place in this league and help him through all his personal struggles, if you're going to cut him now because of being late to a meeting, that replaces the tie as the most Browns thing I've heard all week.
Yeah, so in the show, they made it a point. So essentially, they've instituted like a zero tolerance policy, though they kind of bent the rules for one player who was pulled over and had like something like weed in his car. And they made him play like an entire game as punishment.
Which when your sport is punishment, that's a bad sign.
Yeah. And one of them, of course, one of the threads of the show is Josh Gordon coming back? Is he well? What's happening to him? And then he actually does come back and he starts working out with the team and everything. And, he was getting back in the groove, though he didn't play. He was still getting acclimated to being back on the team. And by all accounts, the way it was presented in the show, his future was, pretty bright. Or they were going to like still support him in his struggles with like addiction and whatever else he's dealing with. So it's kind of like, unless there's some other more serious event that precipitated this move from them, it's really bizarre and kind of, I guess, a very Browns thing to do to release him, because he's kind of, I guess, the guy that people come to see, and they want to see his redemption story play out.
He's by far the best offensive threat. He is one of the best receivers in the league. He played 14 games 2 years ago and led the league in yards. Like, the guy is absolutely electric on the football field. And I want to read the statement he put on Instagram, because
I just pulled that up and I was looking at the very end.
This is the words of a man who was cut either justly or unjustly, or announced he's being parted ways with after all things they've done for him. Huge shout out to the city of Cleveland. This place will always feel like home to me. I am extremely honored and blessed to have been able to grow up and start a life among such a passionate and motivated group of individuals. It's been a hell of a journey with you guys. I wish all of you nothing but the best. Thanks to the Cleveland Browns organization for having me. I'll never forget my time here. And that, for me, is a magnanimous departure. Like, he could have lit some bridges on fire. He could have said what they didn't do, but he focused on the fact that they did indeed stand by him through suspensions and through his personal woes, and they found a way to get him back on the field and get his life started, which makes the cutting all the weirder. The follow-up statement is my favorite, though. Same book, next chapter, P.S. Anybody need a deep threat wide receiver? And that's very NFL, and that's very kind of the world we live in. Like, it's always on to the next one. But it's so weird that now, as we into week one, with like the knee jerk and the immediate reactions to everything, we kind of think we have a landing spot for Josh, because Dallas needs something.
And Dez Bryant is sitting on Twitter trying to get a job. So his visit to the Browns may end up might have worked in his favor after all.
Yeah, but I'll talk about Dez's last employer, because we watched what happened with the Cowboys in week one. It's been the same thing for the last few years about the vanilla play calling and Scott Linehan, the kind of the things that Dez said on his way out, everyone lining up at the same place at the same time, running the same routes all the time. And, whatever you think about Dak Prescott, I'm very lukewarm on him. I don't know what's really there. I do know he needs better playmakers and needs better play calling. And if Josh Gordon's out there, that's a Jerry Jones special right there. That's a Jerry Jones like, wait, he's a problem. He's a problem athlete. Well, come on down to Jerry World. We'll take care of him. Like, whether it works or it doesn't, Jerry's here for the story, and there's not a much better story than Josh Gordon right now.
But here's the thing. Isn't Jerry an enabler?
I'm not saying Josh is going to get better in Dallas. I'm saying
okay.
I'm coming from this employee-homie like situation. Like the other stuff, hey, it's there. He seems like he's dealing with it on his own. I was very much impressed. As someone who has had friends in recovery, I was impressed that he was able to pull himself away from camp right before camp this year and say, I need to recenter myself and get right with my recovery. It showed me that he was taking it seriously. And while Dallas is the most conducive environment to sobriety, I do think that he's taking it seriously enough where
is or isn't? Because I really feel it isn't.
I said isn't.
Okay.
Yeah, and I was just saying that I think that his individual dedication to his sobriety is going to would carry him at least to a level of success, or at least establishing that he can still do it when he's in Dallas. Because once you're in season, I think that a lot of those worries kind of go away because a lot of your time is so micromanaged. Mm-hmm. And I think that if you can get on maybe 10 games out of a team, and especially with Dallas, and maybe transform that offense into something that doesn't resemble the 1978 Notre Dame Fighting Irish, then maybe we could have something special there for him. And maybe get a future in this league. They're boring as hell. That's all it is. It's boring as hell.
Okay.
Watch play football. Speaking of boring as hell to watch play football, last week. Okay, so I'm a Falcons fan. That's a full disclosure. Everyone knows that shit.
I'm sorry.
How dare you? And
I was just saying, a lot of people's troubles could be, undercut by just not, favoring a particular team or another.
I'm 2 weeks away from going shooting every Sunday. Like, it's very close. Like, there were some injuries this week. I don't like what's happening. I'm very close to using my Sundays in more productive ways. Anyway, so I'm a Falcons fan, and as a Falcons fan, the NFC South is a very tough division, but there's some things I could count on. I can always count on the Bucs being kind of shoot themselves in the footy. Well, apparently, Ryan Fitzpatrick, who went to the safety school of Harvard, it is a safety school, screw that place, he decided to go out and throw for like a video game numbers last week. And now I've got to deal with the fact that Bucs fans, long dormant, have now suddenly found their voice in the Jolly Roger, and they're firing the cannons. And is there anything?
I added him to my roster in another league.
First of all, I feel betrayed. But I cannot stand the fact that I've got to pretend that these sorry teams might be a threat to the Falcons because the Falcons are dealing with injuries. And if I have to watch a Harvard quarterback embarrass my football team, I'm done. I'm done for the season as far as I'll be just an NFL, a football fan. I can just be someone who watches football because watching the Falcons lose to Ryan Fitzpatrick, I'm not here for it at all.
Fantasy football is so much more enjoyable if you just don't watch football. So I'm just saying.
If I don't watch football though, I'm out on fantasy. I think that like for me, fantasy is like the sprinkles on top of the cupcake that is football for me. I think if you took away the cupcake, I'd be like, fuck these sprinkles.
Oh, okay.
I think it's something I need to be invested in. Maybe this is my last year in fantasy. I don't know because the Falcons continue to hurt me. One of my favorite things last week was that 7 teams got new coaches, and all 7 lost. And I'm not saying that every situation is the same because watching what happened in Indy, you saw like flashes of hope. You saw beginnings of maybe things out of Andrew Luck. Even in Chicago, where they were up big early in Matt Nagy's coaching debut, and then the magic of Aaron Rodgers and the fact that they haven't built a bear he can't beat, decided to rear its ugly head and destroy them on Monday night. And it was a lot of fun to watch. But no coach failing stood out more than the 2 that happened on Monday night. So Matt Patricia is coming from the Patriots. He's coming as the defensive coordinator of the Patriots to come in and be the head coach of the Lions. And much fun has been made by Bomani Jones of the lack of sartorial splendor for Mr. Matt Patricia. It seems like when these guys leave Belichick, they say, I can do the Belichick thing and not wash or, bathe myself and wear ratty clothes, and people will see genius. However, when your Lions get mollywopped on national television by the New York football Jets and their rookie quarterback, we're going to make fun of you. We're going to make fun of your 2 MIT degrees. We're going to make fun of the fact that someone hired another Patriots assistant despite the Mangini, Weiss, Cornell, Bill O'Brien of it all, Josh McDaniels. If you leave Belichick, they don't have that magic because all these guys leave Belichick and want to be Belichick. Hey, Matt Patricia, this is a team that went 9-7 last year. They needed tweaking and they needed improvement. They didn't need you to tear down the system and say, here are the new rules. Here's how life's going to be now. Get on board or get left behind, especially when you can't roll out results. And I'm not just saying this to bang on Belichick or bang on his disciples, but I will say this. Matt Patricia's defense was 12th in the league last year. 12th. Why does that get you a head coaching job? Why does it say that you can go from the guy who designs the 12th best defense to being a guy who can be the CEO of an organization? And of course, some places you need refreshes, you need changes. Jim Caldwell with 9-7 twice in Detroit, which is a hard thing to do in Detroit because that team has been bad forever. But more than anything, it looked like this team was just unprepared and unready to play. You had the Jets saying that we knew all their plays. All in all, bad look for a first-year head coach. And then he's in the press saying things like, this is unacceptable, while his players are leaking into the press that we're not fucking with Matt Patricia. Can you lose a team in 1 week? Can it be all over in 1 week?
Oh, wow.
It's ugly and it's public. Like, that's what kills me. Like, it can get ugly fast if you're used to winning and you start losing.
So he threw his players under the bus and then the
players threw him right back.
Oh dear. Oh my.
And it's not like he has this huge track record to back up on. It's his first new job. We have, obviously, the laughable history of Belichick assistants as head coaches. And he's out here saying, we're going to move forward. We're going to get better. We can't lose days. These players want answers because your plan does not seem like it's working because we can laugh at the Lions, and they've been a joke, and the first team to go 0-16 as a franchise, yes. 9-7 last year is nothing to sneeze at, and almost missing the playoffs, nothing to sneeze at. 0-1 and blown out at home by the Jets. It's not just that it happened. It's whenever we think about Sam Darnold after one game against apparently a bad team, it's still the bleeping Jets. And I don't know what's going to happen there.
No one should lose to the Jets, is what you're saying.
That's essentially how I feel deep down in my heart and soul. And I'm going to let the Jets, if you're a Jets fan listening to this, party on, enjoy it while you got it, rock it while you can. I get it. I'm not raining on your parade at all. I'm speaking solely about Matt Patricia and his inability to field a competitive football team. Another team that wasn't competitive Monday night and another new head coach. I say new, he's actually old. John Gruden got his first head coaching job after not winning a playoff game since I was a senior in high school. That's right, that Super Bowl you remember that he won with Tony Dungy's players? He won that in January 2003. He has not won a playoff game since, but he somehow parlayed being cast aside to television into 10 years and $100 million from the Oakland Raiders. He used this leverage to not sign Khalil Mack and trade him away this offseason. Great decision. And the guy he gave Khalil Mack's money to, he's already starting a feud with in public. So the finger pointing in Oakland has already begun. After watching the film where Derek Carr threw 3 picks, Gruden said some things about no one in particular. We had Amari Cooper open deep. He was open a couple times. For whatever reason, we didn't go there, was a quote Gruden gave on Wednesday. Now,
so was he low key? Saying Amari Cooper didn't do his job?
No. Because it's not even low key. He's high key saying the line here that matters is we didn't go there. The idea of we didn't go there means that, we shouldn't pass the ball there. What he's saying is, why didn't my quarterback throw that ball? And Gruden has a long and storied history of being, I want to put this subtly, a giant dickhead to his quarterbacks. And I don't know if it's going to work here, considering the $20 million the organization gave Derek Carr could have been given to Khalil Mack, who, for the record, had 6 points scored by him on Sunday against the Packers, and the Oakland Raiders offense scored 6 points. Anyway, it's just wild to me that you can come out here week 1 and fight with your quarterback. And unlike Matt Patricia, Gruden's got the bonus of they're paying me $100 million. If they fire him, they owe him $100 million. He got a 10-year contract.
Yeah, it kind of seems like that they pay him so much compared to the players. It kind of reeks of how they, at the college level, they pay coaches millions and millions of dollars, and the players make nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're 100% right. It's something. It's a decision that was made that I, quite frankly, don't understand. And we'll see what happens. We'll see how it turns out. But if you're a Raiders fan, hold on to your hats because it's going to get uglier before it gets better. And as someone who hates John Gruden and thinks that he shiced his way into this job, I'm okay with that. Let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. So last year, the Buffalo Bills made the playoffs for the first time in years. They had the quarterback Tyrod Taylor, who, maybe his ceiling wasn't the highest, but you knew what his floor was. How do you know what his floor was? Because you had seen the worst Tyrod Taylor. And how did I know you'd seen the worst? Because you benched him. You benched him for Nathan Peterman. Nathan Peterman threw 5 picks and a half against the Chargers. And then you put Tyrod back in. You went to the playoffs. You say in the offseason, we cannot go where we want to go with Tyrod Taylor. Let's let him go. Tyrod ends up in Cleveland doing, a decent job last week in the ring. They bring back Peterman. They bring in A.J. McCarron, and they draft a quarterback who, and we covered this during our podcast week with Michael Felder, if the college guys aren't talking about him and you're telling me he's going to be a great NFL player, I'm worried. Josh Allen was honorable mention Mountain West last year. He wasn't the number 1 quarterback in the Mountain West Conference. But the Bills burned a first-round draft pick on him. The Bills felt so good about what they saw in the preseason, they let A.J. McCarron get traded away. So when Nathan Peterman came out and, shit the bed last Sunday, they've been forced to play this rookie who isn't ready. And they say, you guys are going to say to me, D-Palm, I'm a Bills fan. How in the world can you know he's not ready? Well, by the time this podcast is released, the world will know. But here's the free piece of advice. If they went through all of training camp and went through all the workouts and said Nathan Peterman's our starter, that means Josh Allen's not close to ready. Because if he was close to ready, you wouldn't roll out Peterman again. But here we are. We're watching all this happen, and it boggles my mind because these people are getting paid a lot of money to make these horrible decisions. I can make bad decisions for much cheaper.
And, okay. Have you applied?
I feel like I should. I feel like I'm overqualified because I currently have a job. Like, I feel like I can think critically, so they may not want to hire me. I don't know. It's just one of those situations where everything they do, it's the can't get right of the NFL because they don't invest in an offensive line in Buffalo. So whatever quarterback you have is going to be running for his life. And Tyrod Taylor could throw on the run. And he made their line look better and got into the playoffs. But now Tyrod's in Cleveland. And you've got Josh Allen. Good luck, Bills. Good luck, Bills fans. I don't believe in you. I don't believe in them. And may God have mercy on all your souls. And I wanted to have that in here because it makes me really happy. Because
and good luck to Buffet Benjamin.
That was super mean, but super funny. Let's talk about college action before we get out of here. Your favorite team, my favorite team, the nation's favorite team, was back in action on Saturday. First game of the year. The Columbia Lions traveled down to Central Connecticut State University.
I claim no team.
How dare you? Quiet. This is my
not at the collegiate level.
This is my privilege.
You have no ally in me.
How dare you?
Listen, I'm like Kaepernick. I don't vote. I abstain from the system.
The Columbia Lions defeated the Central Connecticut State University Devils 41-24. At Central Connecticut threw 55 in their first 2 games as an average. Columbia came in town, shut them down, and we headed to face Georgetown next week. It's a great day to be
alive. Only you care.
First of all, there are like 40 people who also care. And that's about it. Well, let's go next to the SEC like we do every week and talk about the only college football that matters. Georgia beat MTSU 49-7. They played both quarterbacks. Eventually, Justin Fields is going to take that job, but I'm here to watch it happen. Kentucky after beating up on Florida last week, beat Murray State 48-10. UTEP lost to Tennessee 24-0. Notre Dame barely beat Vanderbilt 22-17. In what was kind of my game of the day, LSU found a way to win in Auburn, Alabama, 22-21. The time expiring down the clock. Last year, it was the same type game. Auburn had control all game. LSU squeezed it out. And this could give us 4 more years of Coach O, which may not be great for LSU fans, but makes me giggle. Arkansas follows up losing to Colorado State last week, by losing to North Texas 44-17. Not a good sign. Colorado State then lost to Florida, who won 48-10. Alabama. So I was told by AppleCare that Ole Miss was going to have like a squad and be able to compete with Alabama in the West, and then the ball got kicked. And Alabama.
Why would AppleCare? Why would AppleCare send you a message about football?
I asked them, don't do this. And Alabama beat Ole Miss 62-7. This is
you sure you don't mean Siri?
Somebody told me. Why are you stepping on the joke?
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
They were supposed to be competitive. They lost 62-7. Not a great sign for Ole Miss. Mississippi State won 56-10 over Louisiana. Mizzou, who's going to be playing Georgia next week, won 40-37 versus Purdue. A&M beat UL Monroe 48-10. And South Carolina game was scuttled due to the hurricane. Let's go to the top 25 and go through the news and notes here because there are some pretty interesting results here. And
okay,
as you may know, yeah, you can look. Hey, this is we have another audience too. I can't. It's not. I got to make sure. I got to talk to the people who aren't you and I. As I already covered, Bama won. Clemson beat up Georgia Southern 38-7. Ohio State, a team that Urban Meyer didn't coach on game day, but has coached the last 2 weeks, almost got in Jerry World. They ended up beating TCU 40-28. But the story I want to cover this morning was the snake that is Urban Meyer coming on radio and saying, hey, my biggest thing was not denying a victim. It was supporting my coach. Now, is he just saying I denied the victim in nice, flowery language?
Wait, what? I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention because it's the subject. So say that one more time.
The Ohio State Zach Smith situation where Urban Meyer, over a course of years, covered for his assistant, his wife. He came out on radio today and said that basically threw his own wife under the bus and said that his biggest crime was not ignoring a victim, but was indeed trusting his coach. He just ignored the victim with different words, right?
Oh, he's an asshole.
Yeah, a real big one. And he's not even trying to hide it anymore. That's just it's ugly.
I mean, he's brazen with it, but I guess it's his people.
Brazen. I guess I've got people too, but there's a line. I don't know. Friends of mine who strike their wives, I suppose. I'm not that loyal. You are trash. Oklahoma beat Iowa State 37-27. BYU, the Mormons, went to Wisconsin and beat up on the Big Ten 24-21. Wisconsin was ranked number 6th in the country. And if you can hold home court against BYU, maybe your conference is trash, Big Ten. Already covered the LSU game.
Or maybe they allow the students to, fuck and drink now. I don't know.
No, not at BYU. Never. No, they just got guys.
I know that was the joke. Or maybe it is the pent up aggression from not having an outlet.
Repression as a motivational tactic. I like that. That's nice. BYU, if you're listening, that's your recruiting pitch, and also cut her a check because that was great. Oklahoma State number 24. Are
there any black people on that team?
Yeah, there are black people on the team, but they're the only ones at the school. They're on the basketball and football teams.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yes, it does. They may be morbid, but they also like to win football games.
Those poor guys.
Oklahoma State, number 24 in the nation, beat up Boise State 44-21. Mike Gundy, every year Mike Gundy does this. His team comes in lowly ranked. He finds some big scores, big games early, scores a bunch of points, and then once Big 12 play comes, they wilt in front of Oklahoma. So get used to that. And the Boise State, maybe you shouldn't have been 17, dog. You were at home and got stomped out. Michigan beat SMU 45-20. Everyone says, oh, Michigan's offense is back. North Texas scored, I believe it was 50 on SMU last week, so maybe not that far back. Miami beat up on Toledo, lots of little. Texas, who I buried 2 weeks ago for losing to Maryland, mea culpa, beat the fool out of USC, 37-14, in a result I did not see coming. It's one of those things where you just kind of think Texas is down for a while, and they came up and decided to fight last night. And after that second touchdown, USC stopped playing football. Herm Edwards took his first loss as the head coach of the Arizona State. I guess the Demons. I'm not sure the Sun Devils, excuse me, as they lost to San Diego State. Everyone who told me Herman Edwards might work out there. I bet you're a bit less confident now. A bunch of games got rained out because of the hurricane, but I do want to talk about one score that I promised the listener I would, because for the first time in the 2-year history of UD Pod, we're going to talk about Syracuse football. because Syracuse football happens in upstate New York and no one cares until this week because they knocked off FSU. What FSU? Yep, Free Shoes University. The first-year head coach Willie Taggart took the L and just take an L. It wasn't like they squeaked by them. 30-7. 30-7. They beat the doors off of FSU. They've had these like signature wins every once in a while. And of course, my black head coach's agenda was a little torn here with 2 black head coaches involved. But one of those black head coaches may not be a black head coach much longer because you can't lose to Syracuse on the road at FSU that way and not be repercussions. I know people are going to say Willie Taggart deserves time and that Jimbo left the cupboard bare, and both those things may be true. But I watched that game. I watched what would have been coached and would have been allowed to be put on the field. And if you're Florida State and they say it's unacceptable, I have zero problem with it because they might get that quarter. Like, I played line in college, and like there were times where I was overmatched or got beat, or I made mistakes. But if I made enough mistakes, they would bench me. I watched this left tackle.
Have you ever been benched?
I have been benched. I watched this left tackle give up sack after sack after sack. I'm like, yo, someone get that kid out of there, or you're gonna have to write a letter to the quarterback's mother. Like, someone's gonna get this kid hurt. And that's not, you can't say that that's the prior staff because it's recruiting. You've had time with these players. They're doing what you coached them to do, and they're not getting off the field. 30-7, that's a good way to get someone hurt. It doesn't matter to me, but it matters to some people. Georgia Tech lost again to Pitt, 19-24. Really excited for that game. UNC's game was canceled, thus sparing a friend of the show, Chad Floyd, from having to watch his dilapidated team. And I think that's it for college football this week. I do want to thank you for coming on. I got to ask, we're heading into October. Are we getting any good Scarestalgia content?
I have a question.
I have an answer.
Which person in our league is your dad? Because I really don't want to like say something, terrible. So I'd like to know who he is. So I watch my mouth.
All right, I'll give you this. My father is in our league because if you guys think I talk a lot of trash, I got it 1,000% honest. And he's being quiet now, but it's the other D Palmer team, Headbusters. He's winning right now, losing right now, 21-20. And if he wins, I'm sure I'll get a phone call later this evening. That's our show for the day. Are you going to be scaring us this October at all, or no?
We'll see.
I
have been talking about another show concept. Okay. Dealing with actual American history, which is scary as shit. So.
Well, I gotta say, you've inspired me because you and my wife are the only two people who can pressure me into watching horror movies, and so I've absorbed more horror movies in the last 6 months than I probably had over the last 32 years of my life. So thank you for that.
Horror movies are great.
I did. I was one of those. I didn't like being scared as a kid. I never got into it as a kid, but as an adult, I watched A Quiet Place, which I thought was really well done and really good, and I'm really interested how they're going to do the sequel they greenlit. But that was my favorite one I watched most recently. Do you have any recs for me going into October?
Don't watch The Nun.
Okay.
The new Halloween is coming out. Hopefully that is going to be good.
I'm always wary of these because they feel like a revisiting, but for everything I've heard, it sounds like it might be worth actually giving the money to.
Yeah, and I guess Michael Myers is he's just 60-year-old that never ages. So
well, now he's got that. Now he's got that strength.
Yeah, so he might have that old man strength. So yeah, we'll see how Laurie Strode and Michael Myers fare at the end of this next one. But that's really the only one that I'm looking forward to so far. I mean, the first 2 movies are great. And then H2O, I kind of ignore the movies in the middle, kind of like how I do with Nightmare on Elm Street. Everything past 3 is anathema until you get to do Nightmare. And then, Friday the 13th, everything is anathema after 1, the first movie. And then 6 is my absolute favorite, and the rest are just hokey, stupid fun.
I've never heard 6 favorite. 6 is the favorite?
Part 6.
I've never seen it. Now, see, this is what I'm talking about. This is the stuff that I don't have the formal horror education that you do. This is good.
Yeah, I mean, and you could, and that movie is probably I think it is the best out of all of them in terms of story, direction, production. Like it is a really well crafted movie, and it's actually suspenseful, and it has scary moments. And also, if you haven't seen any in the series, you can start with that film because it is a standalone. It also does a little recap, but I recommend Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives.
That's what's up. Thank you very much. Will you tell everyone where they can find you and follow you and keep abreast of all what's going to happen, particularly with this, like American history? Like, we're going to talk after we done recording because that sounds super interesting.
Yeah. So I'll just throw this out there. So there are a couple things we were talking about. The first one was Black Wall Street. And then another one is about the murders of the Osage tribe. And what the interesting connection to me there is that you have two, well-to-do populations of minorities in Oklahoma. Literally, I looked it up on Google Maps because I was so fascinated. They are literally on opposite sides of Oklahoma City. Okay, so you have the Osage Nation who bought land that you really couldn't do farming on it, but it happened to be oil rich. And because it was oil rich, they were a very wealthy community. They, had cars, they had white servants, they, had everything. But because America, they assigned white guardians to these people, and these guardians started murdering the Osage and taking their money. And the part that's interesting to me is that this happens like concurrently to the Tulsa race riot of 1921. So I'm like, wow, our past is horrible.
Oh, it's awful. It's a
yeah.
Awful. And I'm excited if this project is off the ground. I definitely want to see if I can yell into the microphone with you a couple times. But that is it. That is your show this week. Make sure you subscribe in the iTunes store to make sure you get a hold of your quick snaps every week. That was your show. This is your outro.
And I can be reached at not that Ashanti on Twitter. I mean, you can follow me. I'm pretty boring. So that's all the promo I really have. Follow me if you like to be bored.
That's what we call salesmanship. That was your show. This is your outro. See you guys next week.